Hello and welcome to episode 40 of On My Studio Table. 40 episodes, that's quite something. I never thought I would get this far and enjoy it so much. And thank you so much for joining me once again. As you would have seen on the title page, this is an eco-printing special. I did some eco-printing the other day and I thought you might like an in-depth look at my process and also the results. And hopefully it'll encourage you to give it a try as well. It's not as complicated as you think. And even though you might not have the same leaves that I do, you can try the same methods with other leaves. I also do offer a one-on-one eco-printing workshop, which is a face-to-face workshop. I haven't done one online because I feel like I do like to work with someone and just mentor them through the process. But I do share quite generously and freely in my videos, so I hope that really does help you to get some ideas on how to go about it. I was thinking about doing something about how I store my materials in my studio, and I did mention this the other day to someone that I might do that, but I'm thinking that that's going to need to be a video on its own, because I want to really show you the details of how I organise and store my things. Of course, once we get the art shed built, everything will move into there and it may change, but this is what really suits me now, and I can usually find things when I need them. The other thing I'm going to cover in this video is the progress on the comfort coverlet. I've done another section for it. When I say I've done it, I don't know that it's complete, but it's certainly come a long way. So I hope you enjoy looking at that also. So thank you once again for joining me. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. It's hard to believe that the dark bundles have been transformed into something as beautiful as this. The bundles just look totally uninteresting and a dark grey kind of muddy colour. And this comes from the liquid in my pan that I use for boiling. I didn't use my dirty pot as such, but it did become a dirty pot because of the rusty cans that I had in the bundles. And you can see the can prints on the fabric, on both sides actually, and I'll show you in more detail a bit later on. I kept things fairly simple. I really only used eucalyptus leaves and onion skins, and then with the rusty cans it just gave such a beautiful result. I used vintage wool blanket, and I have a bit of a stash of them, but I've also been given a couple in the last month or so from a friend who was decluttering. So that was a gift that I was very happy to receive. And it does print beautifully. It's sort of a beige colour, not a white one, and it actually gives warm background colours to the eco printing. And I think my favourite bit is this part. I had 2 rusty cans wrapped around this, and one of my photos shows me unrolling it when it was still wet, and it really hasn't lost much after being washed and ironed. So some of these will be available for sale. I'm very tempted to keep some, but anyway, after this video is over, they will be scheduled to go live at gonerustic.com. This is some of the silk that I put inside the bundles with the wool on the outside. In between the silk and the wool, I also laid some papers and pieces of canvas, and I'll share them separately. But the silk, of course, is a bit lighter, partly because it was inside the bundle, further away from the pot liquid and the rusty cans. But I still got some lovely prints, and these are just so great to work with, whether it's to make something wearable, or to use in a journal, or to line a bag, all sorts of things. And this one here, even though it's the same silk, same leaves, same pot, same method, the leaves have printed more green. And this is a surprise, and it's quite a pleasant surprise really. Don't know if it really shows up on camera, but they definitely are green in real life. And you can see a lovely rusty can print as well, and also the onion skins and the eucalyptus leaves. This piece is a little bit of sari ribbon. It's actually torn sari silk, and it's a gauzy kind of material. You can see the light through it. And this is lovely to use as ribbon, or you can layer it over other things. For example, if you're using it in a journal or doing an art quilt or something like that. So this is the fabric results from the eco dyeing that I did. And they just fit nicely on the dining room table actually. And it's just such a delight to open the bundles. I had my big 25-litre pot going over the past week, and I did some fabric, some paper, and even some sari ribbon in the one pot. I've managed to fit 6 bundles in, and that means that I'm saving water and saving power as well. I put that on the hot plate in my kitchen, and it's an induction hob, and an aluminium pan actually works really well on it. I didn't know if it would when we first moved in, but it actually is no problem at all. And I found the big pot in a thrift shop. No, it was actually the shop at our rubbish dump, the tip shop. So these are all vintage or upcycled fabrics, and the papers are new. So they are art paper, like from a sketchbook, some thin card, and some canvas, which is in a pad ready for artists to use. So I'll just do them one at a time and show you how they turned out. This is one of the vintage wool pieces from an old blanket, and you can see the string lines. This was near the pot liquid, and the pot liquid became dark, even though I only put water in it, because of the rustic cans I used inside the bundles. And you can see that the eucalyptus and the onion skins that I used did not disappoint. I just seem to get such lovely colours when they are combined together. I think they kind of complement each other. You can also see again the borders of the papers and so on that I laid in the layers. So the order that I put them in was I laid the wool down, put some plant materials on that, laid papers or canvas down, did the same thing again with the plant materials, and then put a silk over the top of that, and then rolled it up as one bundle around a rustic can. And it just works so well that I've been repeating it because I really love the colours. And as usual, they are reversible, and this is from the edges near the pot liquid as well, where it's very dark, and this was inside the bundle. And you can see again the lovely colours, and here the leaves have printed into the dark part as well, and then some more string lines. This was another bundle done in a very similar way. So this was the inside of the bundle. You can see some onion skin there and some eucalyptus leaves. And as you know, all of the eucalyptus leaves grow around our home. We have self-sown smaller trees on the house side of the road, and in the bush side, the trees are too tall and I can't reach the leaves. So I will get windfalls from there sometimes. But what I do, my normal process, which seems to work well for me, partly because of the plant materials I'm using, are the vinegar soak for the fabric and a tannin dip for the papers. So with the vinegar soak, I have about 1/5 of white vinegar with water, and I soak them, usually for an hour or so, sometimes shorter time. And being older fabrics, even though they're still robust, they do absorb the liquid really well. And then the other side, I love the way the leaves have printed into the dark area there. And then the string lines, more eucalyptus and onion skin. And it's just a delight when you open the bundles. This is a really big piece. I won't be able to show you all of it properly, I don't think, but I will try and take some photos of this on the floor so I can be high enough to take a photograph of the whole thing. But this is the area where the rusty cans were, and that's made a lovely print with the eucalyptus leaves over the top, and then you've got it contrasting with this lighter area. So that was folded over that, actually the other way, folded that way, I think. I'll just have a look. Yes. So it's got a sort of a mirror image on one side. You'll see that when I turn it over. And if I just unroll it a bit more, it goes paler the further it is inside the bundle. And I would say this is over 1 metre long and probably maybe 50 or 60 centimetres wide. So it's quite a big piece. I was going to keep some of these fabrics, but I think I will put them out for sale. So they will be scheduled for sale at gonerustic.com, and they do sell very quickly, usually within a few hours, sometimes within a day. Then if I turn it over, you'll see the mirror image that I was talking about, where it was folded here, and there's also a dark line there, and that can be a great design opportunity. And then as I move it along, again, it gets lighter with the onion skin and eucalyptus prints. And then gets darker here again towards the end. So that's all the wool pieces. And I just love the textures and the colours. They're just so rich. And they reflect this part of Tasmania, which is such a beautiful part of Tasmania. And I just feel like this is a visual interpretation and collaboration with what's growing here. And it helps me really connect to this place too. And as you know, I really love it here. and it just brings me joy every day. This is the silk that I've been including in the bundles, as I explained earlier. This is a piece of sari ribbon, and it actually eco-printed very subtly, and it's a little bit see-through, as I mentioned earlier. And the string lines have just worked out so beautifully on this. The leaf prints are much paler. It's a different type of silk to the other silk that I did, so it's quite subtle and a lovely effect actually. So this will be available for sale also, and will make a lovely thing just on its own as a ribbon, or even to embellish something that you wear, to put in your hair, to stitch onto something. Lots of possibilities. These are the silk fabrics that I did, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out. They'll be really good to use, and I will make these available for sale, even though I did say that I was tempted to keep them. And if I turn it over, this is the other side. And because this was folded in half, it's actually a mirror image. And one side is a little bit different to the other, but you can see that the leaf prints mimic each other. But there's still that variation, which makes them so interesting. This one is a bit darker, and the iron of the rusty can and the pot liquid affected this one more than the others, and I like that effect too. And then as you go towards the top, it's a bit paler, and that would have been further inside the bundle. And the other side. And this side, of course, is not mirror image, so there's a bit more variety there if that's what you prefer. So if you buy this, you can decide which is the right side, or you might be able to make something that shows both sides. And again, I kept these simple as well. I just used onion skins and eucalyptus leaves. This selection includes paper, thin card and canvas, and I treat them all in the same way. That is, that they are all dipped in a tannin solution made from used tea bags. I don't soak them, I just dip them because I don't want the paper in particular to disintegrate. Some of them were done without cloth around rusty cans, some of them were done with cloth around rusty cans, and because some were layered more thickly than others, the results vary quite a lot. The ones closer to the pot liquid and the rusty cans printed darker, and the ones that were further away or further inside the bundle printed much lighter. This one on the top is canvas, and it's a lovely eco print, probably more of a standalone one, featuring eucalyptus leaves and rusty cans. This one is a bit more subtle, but really lovely as well. And eucalyptus leaves, no onion skins on these two, and probably for a few of these. Another piece of canvas, paler again. So, as I said, probably further inside the bundle. These paler ones are great for pages in journals, and I could eco-print them again, of course, but I really like to use them as they are. And because canvas is easy to stitch into, it can also be used as a background. This is sketchbook paper, and again, because it was close to the can and the pot liquid, it printed in a more dramatic manner, and again, I really like that. The darker ones may end up being covers rather than pages in a journal, for example. There's a little bit of plant material stuck to that one. Some of these you need to rinse, because if the iron is very dark, it rubs off. Here it's not dark at all, so it doesn't rub off on my finger, but on those darker ones I showed you, I may need to rinse them. I also iron them, and sometimes I will spray them with water to make them easier to iron. But with these, I just use the steam. The ones that I wash, I'll dry and iron again. I actually meant to do it before I ironed them and I forgot. So as you can see, a lot of them are reversible, which makes them good to use for pages in journals or books. This one again may end up as a cover. This is thin card and has a nice robust thickness to it, but not too thick. It will bend quite easily, and it rolled around the cans quite easily too. And I really like the effect of this. Because the paper was a bit wider than the can, the outside printed with a border. So that's something you can keep in mind if you ever want to try it. This is the side with the string lines and a little bit of eco-printing. So this is another one that was close to the rusty can and the pot liquid, and eucalyptus leaves and onion skins, as on the previous one. And this one I really like also, and again I've got a bit of a border there, rusty can print at the bottom, and then rather complex eco print with the leaves. And this one is a lighter one but also really lovely, and the eucalyptus leaves had some imperfections on them, so that's printed as well, which I really like. In the back. And last but not least, another one with eucalyptus leaves and onion skins. So, as with the fabric, all of these are going to be available for sale, apart from maybe a few favourites, which I may end up keeping. But just have a look at gonerustic.com and you might find something that you might find really useful, or particularly want to use in your projects. I decided to add another line of running stitch along this couch strip of cheesecloth. That is fairly thick yarn that I'm using, but I've split it up, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, just so I could have the right colour, because I felt it needed a dark colour. The top piece of this whole coverlet so far is a log cabin, or a wonky log cabin, and the overall effect is quite dark, so I'm trying to make this a little bit darker as well, because this is at the bottom and I want it to be a bit more balanced. So a bit of dark thread and some of these woven strips with the darker colour hopefully help to coordinate them. And I do enjoy running stitch, and it's amazing how much texture just this simple stitch will give to your work. I know Catherine uses it a lot, and you can see that also in this coverlet project, which I have mentioned is a year-long project. And I was supposed to wait until the middle of the week to add the stitching to the woven layer. And I lasted 2 days, and I was looking at it and I thought, I think I need to start stitching. So I did. And I'm not sure what else I'll do. I may leave the rest of it until I've seen the video, because I'm recording this earlier in the week. But in the meantime, if it needs more, I will do that. So the stitches that I've used are mainly the couching, which is a straight stitch over, say, a strip of cheesecloth, or the darker line is a strip of t-shirt yarn which has been eco-dyed. And I've also used some detached chain stitch with an extended little leg on the end to stitch down the medallions. And I've done what I call a whip stitch, which is a thread woven through a running stitch. I think the other stitches I've used are straight stitches along the cheesecloth strip again, the couch strip. So it's just been enjoyable allowing this to evolve. And the woven background really adds to the whole overall effect. I'm really loving it. I'd never really done it until we did the journal project, the year-long journal project last year with Catherine. And we did a sample page in our journal using woven cloth. But this is on a larger scale, and I've just enjoyed it. It's just been wonderful to do, but also I love the look of it. Instead of having a plain background, you have this depth behind your stitching, which I really love. The thread I'm using is actually a wool, which I think is used for crewel embroidery, and because it's so thick, I've actually split it so that I'm only sewing with 2 threads. There were 4 threads altogether. Because it was plied really well, it was a bit twisted, so I had to kind of smooth it out between my fingers to get it to stitch without twisting. It still kinks a little bit, but I can just stop and straighten that out every now and again. So who knows what other stitching I'll do, as I mentioned, but I love just going with the flow and not stressing too much about how it's all going to turn out. I just try to respond to the work and give it what it needs. Sometimes I need to leave it for a few days or even just half a day and just think about it, rather than thinking, oh, I must do this today or I must get this done by such and such a time. I really don't want to have that pressure. I want to enjoy the process. And I've been working like this for a very long time. I used to work to deadlines. Now, if I'm going to enter anything into an exhibition or whatever, I actually just look at the exhibition guidelines and see what I've already made that will fit. And that way I'm not stitching till midnight trying to finish something because the exhibition deadline is looming. And that's the whole reason I'm doing this, not just for creativity, but just to enjoy the process. It's really great for your mental health as well. I'm finding this for myself. It's helped me to recover from a breakdown, but it's also helped me to recover from major health issues that have come up over the years. And it's just wonderful to be able to spend time fulfilling my ideas and allowing them to flow. If you look to the left and above where I'm stitching at the moment, you'll see that I've added a lot of running stitch to this section of the coverlet of comfort. It started with the scrap of green. This is an offcut from something else, and I didn't trim it in any way. I just used it exactly as it is and laid it on top. And the reason I'm using this is because I have used the same fabric in the central section of the coverlet, and I thought it would tie the pieces together. I just outlined it, then I echo stitched it around the curves that I'd made to fill in the gap around the heart, and I really like the effect of that. I'll just do a simple finishing off now with a small French knot, just one wrap, and then I'll slide the thread underneath one of the stitches just to give it a bit of extra security. I will be covering the back of my coverlet when it's finished, so none of this stitching will show. Just to give you an overview now of what I've done so far. You'll see that I've also added a couple of little medallions. If you had seen my previous video, you would know that I've added this to the other section too, at the top of the coverlet. And they were in a bag of lace scraps that someone gave me. And I didn't realise they were in it because the other pieces were bigger and these tiny ones were hidden. So I've got 3 more, and I'm saving those for other sections of the coverlet as we progress. And all I've done is used a detached chain stitch and an extension or a little leg on the end around it. This is a lovely variegated stranded cotton, and this one is also, but a more subtle colour range. This heart is more of the fabric designed in Tasmania by the Spotted Quoll. And again, I've tea-dyed it just to mute the colours a little bit. And then I've laid a few other things on top, like this scrap of Ecoprinted silk, vintage silk. And I'm thinking also of adding another little patch of this lac fabric. I have a small amount of it left, and I'm just thinking about where to put that. But I'm pretty pleased with how it's going so far. I'm trying to connect it to the other pieces, as I mentioned, and this green I have used in the other part, and also the lac dyed silk, and some of the other pieces carry across as well. But I'm also trying to tie it together with the stitching. So other sections have couching, and of course the running stitch. And the hearts, I've got them on each section, and they're representing different members of my family. So I'll just pull the top bit over so you can see some of the things that I've done to try and make it have some continuity. So if I pull this down, you'll see that I've used some of the green fabric that I've just been talking about in this section of the coverlet, which I think is the centre, and here as well, and also up here. I don't have very much of it left. It was part of an outfit that I made that was commissioned for a wedding fashion event, and I called the dress Woodland Wedding. And I'll just insert a photo of the model wearing it so you can see what it looks like. It's a beautiful fabric. I think it's also called seeded silk. And of course the couching and the running stitch, which give it continuity, and the hearts. And then when we come to the log cabin section at the top, I don't think I used any of the green fabric in this part, but definitely I have a heart there, of course the running stitches, and the darker lac dyed fabric, and the Tasmanian designed fabrics, which I tea-dyed. Also the medallions, which again are stitched down with a detached chain stitch with a little leg on it. So altogether, I hope that this will give the whole piece continuity, and I'll carry on doing that as I work on this coverlet. This part here, which I'm still stitching down with a variegated greyish colour, is a piece of lace that I've cut out from a remnant that I actually eco-dyed. And it's a very pretty piece of lace. This is it here. And it must have been a sample because there's part of a label still stuck onto the back of it. But that's the original piece, and I just cut out the rows and used that like an applique piece. Because it was the right colour, I have some other eco-dyed fabrics which are a similar colour, and I just thought it echoed this flower here and kind of extended it diagonally across the quilt. All I did was a straight stitch on the petals just to give it some texture and to hold it down, and now I'm just wrapping the edge. The pieces in the petals are done with a silk thread, which is slightly thicker, and this one, as I said, is a stranded cotton. So I'll just finish doing that and stitching that down. If I move this along, can't get it all in camera, but hopefully you will see how I've tried to make this other new piece tie in together with the rest of the coverlet. Similar colours, similar stitching, repeated motifs, and so on. And I'm thinking that it is working. And of course, I may do more stitching. And as Catherine said, we can do more stitching even when it's supposedly finished. And I was looking at that the other day, thinking about that idea the other day, and I thought, yes, you could actually extend these stitches down into the bottom section to give it continuity once it's all joined together. So before I put the backing on, I may end up doing that. Even some of these curve stitches, although I don't want it to be too busy, but that could actually work also. So it's a constant work in progress, and I don't mind that. I'm always a bit sad when things finish, and because I enjoy the process so much. So I can see that this will not only extend into the rest of this year, but possibly longer after that, and I don't mind that at all.